Imagine, it's March 3rd, 2017, and you're coming home with your brand new Nintendo Switch. You open up the box, take out all the components, set everything up, and insert your obligatory copy of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild into the cartridge slot. This right here is where the journeys of millions of Switch owners began. And 7 years later, oh my goodness, look at all these games. We got platformers, we got shooters, we got peak storytelling, we got cleavage, we got everything on this console. The Switch really has been the culmination of all that Nintendo has done over its 40 years in the gaming industry. It's the home of old classics as well as revolutionary new entries. So in this video, I wanted to talk about the goated lifespan of this incredible console. For starters, let's go back to 2017. On March 3rd, 2017, the Nintendo Switch was released worldwide to the masses. After years of knowing it as the mysterious Nintendo NX, we would finally get to have this product in our possession. At launch, you could play games like Snipper Clips, 1-2 Switch, Fast RMX, I Am Setsuna. Everyone was just playing Zelda. Literally everyone was just playing Zelda. I personally bought my mom personally bought Fast RMX, 1-2 Switch, and Zelda. I sunk a couple hours into the prior two, but yeah, the bulk of my time went to Zelda. During E3 2016, the Wii U version of Breath of the Wild was the only game that people could play at Nintendo's booth. Now, normally if a gaming company only had one game for people to play at E3, that would not be a good sign. But in typical Nintendo fashion, the one playable game that they had people sprinting to their booth. Game journalists and content creators who played Zelda at E3 acted like they had a run-in with Jesus Christ himself. So with them generating all that hype about Breath of the Wild, Nintendo fans couldn't wait for it to be released on the same day as the Switch. Breath of the Wild is still probably in some people's top 10 Switch games of all time. Not only did the game run beautifully as long as you weren't in Hyrule Field, but the way you could interact with all the enemies, items, and environments was crazy. Most games are normal and have invisible walls everywhere to prevent too much game-breaking exploration. But in Breath of the Wild, if you saw it, you could probably interact with it. You could tame just about any form of wildlife you saw roaming about. You could use the runes to explore the world in the most absurd ways. You could freeze an enemy, blow them off the side of the cliff with a Korok leaf, and make them die due to fall damage. This game was nuts. I know a lot of people spend a good few hours just messing around with the stuff in the Great Plateau, so when you realize that that's the smallest region in the game, yeah, you knew this game was going to keep you busy for a while. And that's good because we had to wait until late April to get the next big release, which was Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Now, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was the first major port to come to the Switch. It came packaged with all the tracks from the original Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U, including its DLC tracks. There are only some slight differences between the two games, like the ability to have 2 item slots and improved battle mode. Nothing too big. Oh my god, stuff is getting flung everywhere! This is the fun of having twice as many items in circulation! Oh, you think you're a little funny man, Gordo. You think you're a little funny man, huh? Well, cackle about that! Yeah, these 2 modifications completely changed the feel of the game. I didn't think that these changes would cause Mario Kart 8 Deluxe to sell 64 million units, though. That's almost half of all Switch owners. That's probably what inspired Nintendo to make the Booster Course pass. The money was there and ripe for the taking. I'll laugh if this means we never get a true Mario Kart 9. Like, imagine when the Switch 2 releases, we'll just have another port of 8 Deluxe with all the Booster Course passes being included and a Goomba being added as a playable racer. But after this point, the Switch's lineup of games really started bulking up. In June, we had Arms keep us busy, in July My Job was released, and in August we had a special surprise in the form of Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle. If you guys haven't played the Mario Rabbids games and enjoy tactical RPGs, then I highly recommend you try it out. Some of the battles can be real thinkers, the aesthetic of the game somehow meshes Mario and the Rabbids together well, and the music is so good that I've played for you right now, but I want to make money off of this video. And even toward the end of 2017, the Switch titles didn't stop coming. We got bangers like Super Mario Odyssey and Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I genuinely believe that if you played through Super Mario Odyssey and didn't grin at least once while doing so, then you're... how do I say this? You're not human. I can't adequately talk about how much charm there is in this game. Every kingdom you go to is like its own unique playground, filled with new abilities to try out and moons to collect. Mario's movement in this game is so precise and taken to the next level with the extra jumps that you can do with Cappy. I'm not normally a completionist in games, but this is one of the very few that I made an exception for in 100%. I even voted for Mario Odyssey in the 2017 Game Awards over Zelda because I enjoyed it so much. And ooh, Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Xenoblade 2 is a great game if you can get past some questionable game decisions, and even more questionable character designs. This game has some of my favorite characters in fiction like Mithra and Jin, and has some very heart-wrenching cutscenes. The music really takes these cutscenes to the next level too. I also really enjoyed the more real-time battle style compared to the turn-based ones in RPGs like Pokemon. There's a lot of components in the battle style, but once you get them all down after 5 chapters like I did, then it's really engaging. And the last act of the game is still my favorite in the whole series. If you're looking for a meaty RPG to play through on the Switch, I recommend you give Xenoblade 2 a try. So yeah, 2017 will always be seen as one of the best years for the Switch in my opinion. But there were still some games that released on the Switch after 2017, so let's take a look at how 2018 and 2019 went. Now I have a question for all of you watching. Do any of you remember Nintendo Labo? I'm asking because I definitely didn't. While doing research for this video, I saw that like 3 Labo kits were released in 2018. For those of you who don't know or don't remember, Labo was Nintendo's cardboard-filled sales pitch to Switch owners who really wanted to take their Switch usage to the next level. You would download software for the Switch, make pianos, fishing rods, or motorbikes out of cardboard, put the Joy-Cons in them, and play these cute little games utilizing your cardboard creation. I never bought Labo because I was too busy crunching through my 2017 backlog and didn't want to spend 3 hours making a cardboard backpack that I was probably only going to use for 30 minutes. If you bought one of these Labo kits, comment down below if you enjoyed it. I'm eager to know because I'm in college. I will never have time to build any of this. In 2018, there were also some fire DLC for the games that were released in 2017. Splatoon 2 had the Octo expansion, and Xenoblade 2 had Torna the Golden Country, aka side quest simulator with a side of sadness. Both of these DLCs helped to flesh out the characters in the main game and draw more attention to their respective series. The Octo expansion in particular ignited or reignited a lot of people's interest in Splatoon with its mysterious story and its super snappy level design that destroyed millions of Splatoon players' self-esteem. The Octo expansion's amazing single-player gameplay was an awesome companion to the addicting multiplayer gameplay of Splatoon 2. And keep in mind, Splatoon 2 was still getting weekly weapon drops and monthly map drops at this time. Splatoon 3 could never. There were some more Wii U titles that graced the Switch this year too. We got Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, Hyrule Warriors, and Captain Toad Treasure Tracker. Considering the Wii U was only owned by like 13 people, these games were still new and thus very appealing to the vast majority of Switch owners. And that's about it for 2018. There was a new Mario Party game which made players play with one Joy-Con and had a super broken ally system, but nothing else that big really came out toward the end of the year. Nah, I'm just kidding. We also had Super Smash Bros. Ultimate! This game right here was what was getting most of us through 2018. All the past fighters returned, a bunch of new characters joined the fight, and fake Nintendo Direct leakers had something they could always be right about. Smash had a little something for everybody. Casuals could mess around with items and spirits, completionists could spend hundreds or thousands of hours completing every challenge, and for glory sweats could try, keyword try, to have smooth fights with people online. Even though this is the ultimate Smash game, there's still some hurdles that this franchise will never be able to clear, and laggy online matches are one of them. At least Nintendo kept their online free and didn't announce a service this year that would force people to pay for these abysmal servers, right? At the beginning of 2019, platformers like Yoshi's Crafted World and Super Mario Maker 2 graced the Switch. I never got a chance to play Crafted World, but I did play Super Mario Maker 2 for a while. Super Mario Maker 2 was the sequel to Super Mario Maker 1 on the Wii U, and added new items to use in levels, Super Mario 3D World's game style, and the ability to play against 3 of your friends. I gotta say, the connection was pretty good. As long as you weren't playing with someone who was across the world from you. Keep in mind, NSL was a thing for almost a year at this point. Now toward the end of 2019, we had games like Ring Fit Adventure and Luigi's Mansion 3. To play Ring Fit Adventure, you would attach one Joy-Con to the like strap and another to the Pilates ring that came with the game, and do these various exercises while making your way through the story of the game. I say story lightly because the plot is literally you spending 40 hours stopping a dragon from becoming so addicted to fitness that he kills himself. Listen, it's a fitness game. The story is just there to give you a break from the squats. I didn't get jacked playing Ring Fit Adventure or anything, but it was something to keep me active, especially when a certain something stopped me from leaving my home for much of the following year. Luigi's Mansion 3 was also very fun. I got that game for Christmas 2019 and beat it within 5 years. This was one of those games I wanted to play for a while, but other stuff just kept getting in the way. As we got further into the Switch's life, that wasn't the only game that fell into the pit of almost never being played either. But once I finally forced myself to stream it, I was impressed. It's definitely one of the most visually stunning games on the Switch and was filled with neat puzzles on each floor, some of which took me an embarrassingly long time to complete. And then in November, we were given our first Pokemon games, Pokemon Sword and Shield. Wait, I thought there was another Pokemon game that came out before the— God dang it, that was another game that I bought but never played! You know what? Half the buttons on my Joy-Con don't work anyway, so I can't even play it. Pokemon Sword and Shield were the first conventional Pokemon games on the Switch. These games were based in the UK-inspired Galar region and gave us about 90 new Pokemon to catch on our journey. I gotta say, my personal favorite Pokemon in this generation has gotta be Corviknight. It's got a sick design, its first evolution Rookidee was one of the first Pokemon I ever caught in Gen 8, don't worry about what my chat had me nickname it, and the typing for it was super cool. This game had some very likable characters, a wild area that was the first step to doing away with pesky random encounters, and it easily has the best gym theme in the series. Like, actually listen to this! After one listen you can tell all the budget went here instead of the graphics! And with that, the 2010s were a wrap and we were heading into the 2020s. I don't think anyone expected these to go the way they did though. Now in the beginning of 2020, the world was put on pause because of the pandemic. Cases and deaths were racking up all over the world and lockdowns were enforced globally to slow the spread of the virus. People were stuck in their homes all day with nothing to do. Until, at the perfect time, a little game called Animal Crossing New Horizons released. New Horizons was the latest installment in the Animal Crossing series. In this game, people could decorate islands, collect animals, and go into crippling debt. So it's already the perfect simulation for the real world. The unique feature of New Horizons was that you could terraform the land that you lived on. On top of the hours that people would spend putting different items on the land, they would spend even more hours altering the land itself. If decorating isn't really your thing, you could be like me and try to game the economy. I spent a good amount of time in Animal Crossing growing non-native fruits, investing in the stock market, and developing an obsession for rare animals. I even have a few of them in the basement of my house that I admire from time to time. I'm not normal. You could even go to your friends' islands and play games like hide and seek or musical chairs with them. All the extra time that you had from staying at home all day could be poured into this game, and for a little while, you could escape all the chaos that was going on around you. There were other games that released in 2020, like Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, and Paper Mario The Origami King, but I don't think any game had anywhere near the impact that New Horizons did on people's lives. Well, actually, I know they didn't. Look at how well this game sold. If I didn't know, I'd say Asashi Nogami made the dang virus. At the beginning of 2021, we had ports of Super Mario 3D World and Miitopia. I played Super Mario 3D World on the Wii U a few years prior, but what made the Switch version unique was the added online multiplayer and Bowser's Fury pack-in game. Bowser's Fury was a very short campaign with only one world to explore, which is surprising considering how fun it felt. As someone who enjoyed Mario Odyssey so much, this DLC felt like an extra teaspoon of that experience mixed with the mechanics of 3D World. It was a very chill side adventure to play through in my spare time. You know, besides the times when Bowser would awaken and the sky would fall. But the online multiplayer. Oh boy! To give you an idea of how hectic that was, before each online session that I would do with my viewers, I had to go to level 1-2 and get the max number of lives to make sure the people I was with didn't game over. There was barely any coordination, some of the connections were laggy, and there were even people dead set on making sure we never beat the game. I don't know what's crazy, the fact that Tengu the Toad player was bent on throwing us off the map whenever possible, or the fact that Tengu the Toad player is now a mod for this channel. On the other hand, I had never played Miitopia before, so I was first introduced to it when it was released on the Switch. This game is so feral. I walked in completely open-minded and I walked out in an abusive relationship with Matt from Wii Sports. I also put one of my other mods in a love triangle with Jimmy Neutron and Steve Harvey. It was great. And by the way, this game is also a 30-hour turn-based RPG. I did not expect this much content off of a Chaotic Me spin-off. In terms of new games, we had new Pokemon Snap, Mario Party Superstars, and Metroid Dread. New Pokemon Snap gave me a lot of the same vibes as Pokken Tournament. Not like in terms of gameplay or anything, I mean in terms of the Pokemon being beautifully rendered and making me jealous of the fact that we will never see these kinds of graphics in the mainline games. Mario Party Superstars was a change of pace from Super Mario Party, bringing back the old Mario Party format. Before Superstars, the only Mario Party games I played were Super Mario Party and Mario Party 10, so I got to experience what people enjoyed about the older boards and minigames. Metroid Dread was a Metroid game that was very fun and challenging. And, okay, the jig is up. That's another game that I bought and never played. The only thing I do know about the game are the enemies, and based on them, I don't know if I want to know anything else. Now, if you were to ask me what was the Switch's best year other than 2017, then I would say 2022. We had open world games, we had sequels to popular 2017 games, we had the ChatGPT version of Wii Sports, we had it all. In January, Pokemon Legends Arceus released. At this point in time, Game Freak was going all in on the Sinnoh region. They already made Pokemon Diamond and Pearl Funko Pop Edition in 2017, 2021, so this year they made a game based on a bygone era of Sinnoh's history, back when it was known as the Hisui region. In Legends Arceus, humans have a much more leery relationship with Pokemon than they do in the other games, and it was your job to go into the wilderness and gather more data about them. Usually in Pokemon games, you only need to catch Pokemon once to fill out the Pokedex entry, but in this game you had to catch Pokemon multiple times, wait for them to use certain moves, and give them food. I really enjoyed this game. I actually played it twice, once on my own and then once on stream. The gameplay loop was super addicting, and I enjoyed interacting with all of the characters, though probably not as much as some of my chat. I gotta say, the Xenoblade fan in me really enjoyed the alpha Pokemon mechanic. The level 40 Rapidash in the baby starting area gave me flashbacks to when I would be exploring Gormon and then get aggroed by a level 80 gorilla. In March, we had Kirby in the Forgotten Land. Now, I am a humongous Kirby fan. I've played Kirby's Epic Yarn, Kirby's Return to Dreamland, Kirby playing Robobot, 30 minutes of Kirby Mass Attack, and now I would get to play Kirby in 3D. Not only did this game introduce the Drill and Ranger copy abilities, but these and the older copy abilities could be upgraded to the point to where they were kind of broken. I'm glad that I had them though, because some of the boss battles were pretty difficult, especially the ones in the Coliseum. I don't think I would ever want to try beating the Shadow the Hedgehog version of Fecto Elysium with a base copy ability. And how could I mention Forgotten Land without bringing up Mouthful Mode? With this feature, Kirby gains control of things like cars and vending machines to literally speedrun courses and mow over enemies in his way. I feel bad about absolutely shattering Kirby's jaw, but he sucked up and swallowed worse than a rusty Volkswagen. In April, we had Nintendo Switch Sports, which nobody cares about. And then in July, we had Xenoblade Chronicles 3. This game literally merged all of our favorite parts of Xenoblade 1 and 2 into one big masterpiece. And on top of that, the flute players single-handedly fueled the cocaine economy while recording the OST. I've said it before and I'll say it again. If you want to keep yourself busy over the holidays, then the Xenoblade games are perfect. This game takes about 60 hours to beat, and that's just for the main story. If you're like me and become obsessed with unlocking all the heroes, then it can take even longer. For my Splatoon fans watching this video, you should at least be grateful for Xenoblade 3, because the two games had to keep their original release schedules, and Splatoon 3 released in July. Can you imagine how buggy Salmon Run would have been? Luckily it didn't though, and instead we got to travel to Splatsville in September. As someone who's been around since Splatoon 1, it was amazing seeing so many people support Splatoon 3. Similar to Xenoblade 3, Splatoon 3 also brought back notable things from its predecessors. All the base main weapons returned except for the dual squelcher. Specials were brought back and modified to fit the chaotic theme of the Splatlands, and fan favorite stages like Museum del Foncino and Sturgeon Shipyard reported over. It also had a good deal of new stuff like Table Turf Battle, King Salmonids, and Mincemeat Metalworks. Over the next couple of years, Splatoon would slowly get more stuff added to it that would differentiate it from the previous games in the series. A lot of these things are limited time as of writing this, but you know what? They're still there. Speaking of, if you're someone who put down Splatoon 3 before fall of 2023, you should hop on the game again. In addition to there being a bunch of new weapons, maps, and a whole roguelite added to the game, there are a bunch of cool seasonal Splatfests that'll still be going on until at least the middle of 2025. If you want to make sure you don't forget, you should subscribe with notifications on. We do a lot of Splatoon here, so I'll be happy to be your news source. There were a bunch of other games that were released this year too. Mario Rabbids Sparks of Hope kept the Mario Rabbids wave going and made some neat changes. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet was the third set of Pokemon games in a year and had my favorite rival group in the series, including the most neurodivergent woman of all time. And Bayonetta 3 revitalized the Bayonetta series and was the third major game this year to have a 3 in the title. So in case you weren't sure why I think this was the second best year for the Switch behind 2017, now I hope you can see why. And we still have a couple years left to go over. There's no way Nintendo had any more ammo left for 2020. Oh my goodness! You know how at the very beginning of this video I was talking about how good Breath of the Wild was, right? The game that kept Switch owners busy for months. The game that people were racing to play the demo of at E3. Well, Tears of the Kingdom made Breath of the Wild look like a prototype. In Breath of the Wild, you can only move metal objects with your runes. In Tears of the Kingdom, you can move anything with your runes. In Breath of the Wild, you can only freeze things in place. In Tears of the Kingdom, you can reverse their movement pattern. In Breath of the Wild, you had to collect 900 pieces of Korok BCs to 100% the game. In Tears of the Kingdom, you had to... Oh. This game was fantastic. While most of the overworld is similar to how it was in Breath of the Wild, there's still a ton of new things to do in it. Not to mention, if you get bored, you can go up to the various Sky Islands or down to the Hyrule Depths. The latter two being the same size as the surface, by the way. I know that the vast majority of you still have something you haven't discovered yet in this game. Heck, I still haven't discovered a bunch of stuff. Like with Breath of the Wild, this is easily a game you can sink hundreds of hours into. That one mechanic that the final boss steals from the player still makes my jaw drop. If you know, you know. In June, Everybody 1-2 Switch was released. Nobody cares about that either. And in July, Pikmin 4 was released. Now, after having completed the main story, I can describe Pikmin in one word. Dandori. It's basically Pikmin's word for multitasking. Pikmin 4 is a game where you constantly need to be doing 3 things at once in order to get anything done. You have to save castaways, pick up miscellaneous items, and make sure your Pikmin don't drown themselves at the same time. Even though I was initially determined to make sure I watched over all of my Pikmin like a mother bird, I eventually gave in to the Dandori. And it also got to the point where they were going to find some way to die. I just needed to make sure the vast majority of them didn't get stomped on by a disco spider or run over by an invisible man. As fun as this game was, it can become very stressful. If you struggle at multitasking, you're gonna be fighting for your life in this game, Chief. And in October, we had Super Mario Wonder. Honestly, I really want to go to Nintendo of Japan and just study how they make so many good Mario games. Like, I know Mario is the face of Nintendo and a lot of time and money goes into those games, but still, how did they come up with these new ideas for 40 years? In Mario Odyssey, they somehow made Mario throwing his hat a good mechanic. In this game, they put Mario on lean and it somehow works. Every level has some kind of surprise behind it, and there's also badges that Mario can equip to give himself some added perk. These badges can turn Mario's hat into a parachute, increase his run speed, and turn into an elephant whenever he gets a power-up. Which, elephants? Really? We've had frogs, we've had turtles, we've had cats, but now we have elephants. We're just going through the entire children's book of animals, aren't we now, Miyamoto? And here we are, in the year 2024. Nintendo's definitely started making games for the successor to the Switch by now, but we still had some good releases this year. We had The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, we had Mario Party Jamboree, we had Paper Mario Booby Bash, we had a lot of things. There's still some stuff coming down the pipeline too, like Donkey Kong Country Returns, Xenoblade Chronicles X, Pokemon Legends ZA, and Metroid Prime Beyond. Like, hello? I could go on for hours about this handheld home console hybrid. I could go into some of the fantastic paid DLC that some of these games have had. I could go more into the stunning in-game events that miraculously didn't make the Switch combust. I could talk more about the great indie and third-party games like Octopath Traveler, Celeste, and Sonic Forces. But I think you get the point that this console has had a goated lifespan. It's no wonder that the Switch is the 3rd best-selling console and poised to overtake the DS and PS2 by the time its successor releases. I was a Wii U owner. I know what it's like to often have game droughts, and I was someone who got bullied for owning a Wii U because nobody was buying it. So it's awesome seeing so many people accept Nintendo, join communities, and build long-lasting friendships from the Switch and the plethora of games that are on it. Whether you're someone who's had a Switch since day one or someone who plans on buying one over the holidays before the Switch 2 releases, I hope this video can give you just a small taste of how wild a ride things have been. We have no clue what's in store for us with the Switch 2, but if it's anything like the Switch 1, then it's gonna be impeccable. This video was quite the lengthy one to script. It's over 9 pages long now. If you enjoyed it, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe. In case you haven't picked up on it, we do a lot of Nintendo streams and videos here. And if you want some more Nintendo content, skim through this playlist. There's some Splatoon in there, Mario in there, Zelda in there, something that you'll probably enjoy. I'll see you all next time.